The ancient bells of Chester Cathedral began their ceremonial toll at precisely 9 o'clock on that crisp June morning, their bronze voices carrying across the cobblestone streets like messengers from another era. Prince William adjusted his mourning coat as a security detail conducted their final sweep of the cathedral grounds, their practiced eyes scanning every shadow and doorway. The Duke of Westminster's wedding to Olivia Henson represented more than just another social obligation in his royal calendar. It was a deeply personal moment that connected him to memories of his childhood, his mother's legacy, and the complex web of relationships that defined Britain's aristocratic circles. Hugh Grosvenor, the seventh Duke of Westminster, had been more than just another titled friend to William. Their friendship stretched back to the days when both were young boys navigating the peculiar challenges of growing up in the public eye, albeit from different vantage points. Hugh had inherited his title at 25 following his father's unexpected death, suddenly finding himself one of Britain's wealthiest landowners with responsibilities that stretched from London's Mayfair district to vast estates across Cheshire and Scotland. William remembered the phone calls during those difficult early months when Hugh struggled with the weight of his inheritance, just as William had grappled with his own destiny as future king. The cathedral itself stood as a testament to the enduring nature of British tradition, its Gothic spires reaching toward gray morning clouds that threatened rain but held their peace. Built in the 11th century and expanded over generations, Chester Cathedral had witnessed countless ceremonies of state and celebration. Today's gathering represented a convergence of old money, new influence, and royal approval that would be studied by society writers and political observers for years to come. William's thoughts drifted to his mother as he walked through the cathedral's ancient doorway. Princess Diana had maintained a warm relationship with the Grosvenor family, often attending their charitable events and supporting their various philanthropic initiatives. The late sixth Duke had been a trusted family friend, someone who could be counted on for discretion and loyalty during the most turbulent periods of royal family life. Diana had spoken fondly of Hugh's father, describing him as one of the few people in their social circle who never seemed to want anything from the royal family beyond genuine friendship. The interior of the cathedral buzzed with carefully controlled activity as wedding guests took their designated seats. William recognized faces from across the spectrum of British society, cabinet ministers whose political careers depended on maintaining favor with influential families like the Grosvenors, business leaders whose companies had benefited from Westminster family investments, and members of European royal houses whose own fortunes had been intertwined with British aristocracy for centuries. Olivia Henson's family had arrived early, their pride evident despite their obvious nervousness at the magnitude of the occasion. She came from solid middle-class stock, her father a successful accountant, her mother a retired teacher who had dedicated her life to education in underprivileged communities. The contrast between the Henson family's practical Yorkshire backgrounds and the opulent surroundings of Chester Cathedral could not have been more stark. Yet William appreciated how naturally they seemed to adapt to circumstances that might have overwhelmed others. The bride herself had captured Hugh's heart, not through social connections or family wealth, but through their shared passion for environmental conservation. They had met at a charity gala focused on sustainable agriculture, where Olivia's presentation on soil management techniques had impressed even the most skeptical audience members. Her background in environmental science and her genuine commitment to addressing climate change had resonated with Hugh's own evolving understanding of his responsibilities as one of Britain's largest private landowners. William found his assigned seat in the front section reserved for members of the royal family and their closest associates. The positioning allowed him an excellent view of both the altar where Hugh would soon take his vows and the main aisle down which Olivia would process. Protocol dictated his presence here, but personal affection made it meaningful. Hugh had stood by the royal family during some of their most challenging moments, including the difficult period following Diana's death, when public sentiment toward the monarchy had reached dangerously low levels. The organ's preliminary notes began to resonate through the cathedral's vaulted ceiling, creating an atmosphere of solemn celebration that seemed to transport everyone present back through centuries of British history. William reflected on the curious nature of aristocratic friendships, how they developed within such rarefied circumstances, yet often proved more durable than relationships formed in ordinary settings. The pressures of public life, the constant scrutiny of media attention, and the weight of inherited responsibility created bonds between people who might never have connected under different circumstances. Hugh's groomsmen began taking their positions near the altar, each representing different aspects of his life and interests. There was James, his closest friend from Eton, who now managed sustainable forestry projects across the Westminster estates. Marcus represented Hugh's military connections. They had served together briefly in the Territorial Army before Hugh's inherited responsibilities required his full attention. Peter brought an international perspective, having helped Hugh navigate complex property investments across Europe and North America. The cathedral's ancient stones seemed to absorb the whispered conversations and nervous energy of the assembled guests. William noted how different this atmosphere felt compared to his own wedding to Catherine. That ceremony had carried the weight of national celebration and international attention, with millions watching via television and thousands gathering outside Westminster Abbey. Today's gathering felt more intimate despite the grandeur of the setting and the prominence of many guests. Security arrangements for the event reflected the careful balance between maintaining appropriate protection for royal family members while allowing the ceremony to proceed with dignity and warmth. William's protection officers had coordinated extensively with local police and cathedral security to ensure multiple layers of safety without creating an atmosphere of siege or suspicion. The measures remained largely invisible to most guests, though William had trained himself to notice the subtle signs of their presence. The financial implications of Hugh's marriage extended far beyond personal happiness or social advancement. As one of Britain's wealthiest individuals with an estimated fortune exceeding £10 billion, his choice of spouse inevitably influenced how that wealth might be deployed in future philanthropic endeavors. Olivia's environmental background suggested potential shifts in the Westminster family's charitable priorities, possibly moving toward more aggressive support for climate change initiatives and sustainable development projects. William remembered conversations with Hugh about the burden of inherited wealth and the challenge of using family resources responsibly in an era of growing economic inequality. The Grosvenor family had built their fortune through strategic property investments dating back centuries, but Hugh had expressed desire to ensure that wealth served broader social purposes rather than simply perpetuating privilege across generations. His engagement to someone with Olivia's background and values suggested genuine commitment to those principles. The morning light filtering through the cathedral's stained glass windows created shifting patterns of color across the assembled congregation. William found himself studying the faces around him, recognizing the careful social choreography that governs such gatherings. Cabinet ministers positioned themselves strategically to maximize networking opportunities while maintaining appropriate deference to royal presence. Business leaders sought subtle ways to signal their success and influence without appearing crass or opportunistic. European royalty represented at the ceremony included several cousins and family friends whose own lives have been shaped by similar expectations and responsibilities. William appreciated their presence, understanding how their shared experiences created natural bonds despite differences in nationality or specific circumstances. They faced common challenges in adapting ancient institutions to modern realities while preserving traditions that connected them to centuries of history. The cathedral's acoustic properties amplified every sound, from the rustle of expensive fabrics to the careful footsteps of late-arriving guests finding their seats. William had learned to appreciate these moments of anticipation, recognizing how they represented the calm before significant life changes that would affect not just the immediate participants, but entire networks of relationships and responsibilities. Hugh's mother, the Dowager Duchess, took her seat with quiet dignity that reflected her decades of experience navigating high-profile social situations. She had guided her son through the difficult transition following his father's death, helping him understand the full scope of his inherited responsibilities while encouraging him to develop his own vision for the family's future. Her approval of Olivia had been crucial in ensuring family unity around Hugh's choice of bride. The organ music swelled as the ceremony's formal beginning approached, creating an atmosphere of reverence and celebration that seemed to unite the diverse congregation in shared appreciation for the significance of the moment. William felt the familiar mixture of public duty and personal emotion that characterized so many aspects of his royal life. Understanding that his presence here represented both institutional support for important social relationships and genuine affection for people who had become integral to his own story. The cathedral's massive doors opened with ceremonial precision as Olivia Henson began her procession down the ancient aisle, her father's steady presence beside her providing calm strength in the face of such overwhelming grandeur. William watched from his position near the front as she moved with natural grace despite the magnitude of the occasion. Her wedding dress a masterpiece of understated elegance that spoke to both tradition and personal taste. The gown had been created by a relatively unknown British designer whose commitment to sustainable fashion aligned with Olivia's environmental values, making a subtle but meaningful statement about the couple's shared priorities. Hugh's reaction to seeing his bride approach the altar revealed the genuine emotion underlying this carefully orchestrated ceremony. His usually composed demeanor cracked slightly as tears gathered in his eyes, and William recognized the profound relief and joy of someone who had found authentic love despite the complications of his position and wealth. The Duke's romantic history had been the subject of considerable media speculation, with various relationships scrutinized for their potential social and financial implications. Olivia represented something different. A partnership based on mutual respect and shared values rather than strategic advantage or social climbing. The Archbishop of Canterbury, who would officiate the ceremony, stood ready to guide the couple through vows that would formally unite not just two individuals, but two very different family traditions. His presence added constitutional weight to the proceedings, reflecting the deep connections between the Church of England, the aristocracy, and the monarchy that had shaped British society for centuries. William appreciated the Archbishop's ability to balance these institutional requirements with genuine spiritual meaning, creating ceremonies that honored both tradition and personal faith. Olivia's mother dabbed discreetly at her eyes as she watched her daughter approach this transformative moment. The journey from their comfortable but modest Yorkshire home to the grandest cathedral in Cheshire represented more than just geographic distance. It symbolized the remarkable social mobility that remained possible in modern Britain, even as class distinctions continued to influence many aspects of daily life. Her presence in the cathedral reflected Hugh's determination to honor Olivia's background rather than expecting her to abandon her roots for aristocratic acceptance. The ceremony itself proceeded with the measured dignity that characterized such occasions, each word and gesture carefully chosen to reflect both personal meaning and institutional significance. When Hugh and Olivia exchanged their personally written vows, their words reflected genuine understanding of the unique challenges they would face together. Hugh acknowledged his inherited responsibilities while promising to maintain perspective on what truly mattered in life. Olivia spoke about her commitment to supporting his work while pursuing her own environmental advocacy with increased resources and influence. William found himself reflecting on his own marriage vows as he listened to their exchanges. The parallels between royal and aristocratic marriages were significant. Both involved individuals whose personal choices carried implications far beyond their immediate families. Catherine had navigated similar challenges in adapting to life within Britain's most scrutinized family, though her transition had occurred under even more intense public attention. The skills required for such adaptations, resilience, discretion, and unwavering commitment to service, were rare and precious qualities. The musical selections for the ceremony had been chosen to reflect both traditional expectations and personal preferences. The cathedral's renowned choir performed classical pieces that had echoed through these vaulted spaces for generations, while also incorporating contemporary compositions that spoke to the couple's modern sensibilities. The blend of old and new created an atmosphere that honored the past while embracing the future, perfectly capturing the essence of what this marriage represented. Hugh's younger siblings watched the ceremony with mixtures of pride and relief, understanding that their brother's choice of spouse would significantly influence their own futures within the family structure. The Westminster inheritance included provisions for extended family members, but the primary heir's decisions about philanthropy, business investments, and social priorities would shape opportunities available to the broader family network. Olivia's values suggested a future focused on meaningful social impact rather than purely traditional aristocratic pursuits. The guest list itself told the story of modern British society, combining hereditary peers with self-made business leaders, political figures with charitable activists, and international aristocrats with local community representatives. William recognized many faces from various royal functions and charitable events, but also noted the presence of individuals who rarely moved in such elevated social circles. Hugh's decision to include Olivia's professional colleagues and environmental advocacy partners demonstrated his commitment to bridging different worlds rather than maintaining artificial barriers. Photography during the ceremony was strictly controlled, with only designated official photographers permitted to document the proceedings. This approach protected the privacy of guests while ensuring appropriate records of the historic occasion. William appreciated such careful balance between public interest and personal dignity, understanding how difficult it could be to maintain meaningful privacy while fulfilling legitimate public curiosity about significant social events. The exchange of rings carried particular symbolism, as both bands had been crafted from gold sourced through ethical mining practices that aligned with the couple's environmental commitments. Hugh's ring incorporated gold from family heirloom jewelry that had been melted down and reformed, connecting him to previous generations while symbolizing renewal and fresh beginnings. Olivia's ring featured a sustainable diamond that had been certified conflict-free, reflecting their shared commitment to responsible consumption. Security concerns remained present but unobtrusive throughout the ceremony, with protection officers maintaining vigilant watch while allowing the proceedings to unfold with natural warmth and spontaneity. William's own security team coordinated seamlessly with broader arrangements, their presence notable only to those trained to recognize the subtle signs of professional protection. The challenge of providing adequate security for such a high-profile gathering, while preserving the sacred atmosphere of religious ceremony, required exceptional skill and planning. The cathedral's ancient stones seemed to absorb the significance of the moment as Hugh and Olivia were pronounced husband and wife. Centuries of similar ceremonies had taken place within these walls, connecting this modern celebration to an unbroken chain of British history that stretched back through Norman conquests, medieval kingdoms, and Tudor dynasties. William felt the weight of that continuity, understanding how individual moments like this contributed to the larger story of national identity and cultural evolution. As the newlyweds processed back down the aisle together, their faces radiant with happiness and relief, William joined the congregation in spontaneous applause that echoed magnificently throughout the cathedral. The sound represented more than just social approval. It reflected genuine affection for a couple who had demonstrated that authentic relationships could flourish even within the rarefied atmosphere of extreme wealth and social prominence. The formal receiving line that followed allowed William to offer his personal congratulations to both Hugh and Olivia, exchanging words of support and friendship that reflected years of shared experiences and mutual respect. Hugh's gratitude for William's presence at such an important moment was evident, understanding that royal attendance represented more than protocol. It signified institutional approval for his choice and confidence in the couple's future together. Olivia's conversation with William revealed her natural ease in handling high-profile social interactions, suggesting she would adapt successfully to her new position's requirements. Her background in environmental science had prepared her for public speaking and stakeholder engagement, skills that would prove invaluable as she assumed greater responsibility for the Westminster family's charitable activities and public representation. The transition from ceremony to celebration required careful choreography to manage the movement of several hundred distinguished guests from the cathedral to the reception venue. William's departure would be timed to allow him to fulfill his ceremonial obligations, while avoiding any perception that royal presence overshadowed the couple's special day. The balance between honoring friendship and maintaining appropriate protocol required careful navigation of complex social expectations. As guests began making their way toward waiting transportation, William reflected on the successful conclusion of the formal ceremony and looked forward to the more relaxed atmosphere of the reception celebration. The morning had demonstrated once again how traditional institutions could adapt to accommodate modern values and relationships while preserving their essential dignity and meaning. Hugh and Olivia's marriage represented hope that Britain's aristocratic families could continue evolving in ways that served broader social purposes while maintaining their historic cultural significance. The reception venue at Eton Hall, the Westminster family's primary estate, showcased the careful balance between historic grandeur and contemporary hospitality that characterized the entire celebration. William arrived to find the estate's magnificent gardens transformed into an outdoor paradise, with marquees erected to provide shelter while maintaining connection to the natural surroundings that meant so much to both Hugh and Olivia. The landscaping had been modified to incorporate sustainable practices that reflected the couple's environmental commitments, including solar-powered lighting systems and locally sourced floral arrangements that would be composted after the celebration. The guest list for the reception had been expanded beyond those who attended the cathedral ceremony, bringing together an even more diverse collection of individuals whose relationships with Hugh and Olivia reflected different aspects of their lives. Environmental scientists who had worked with Olivia on climate research projects mingled with property developers who managed Westminster investments across multiple continents. The mixture created fascinating conversations that might never have occurred under other circumstances, fostering connections that could influence future collaborations and initiatives. William found himself seated at a table that perfectly illustrated the thoughtful approach Hugh and Olivia had taken to bringing together their different worlds. His dining companions included a cabinet minister responsible for environmental policy, a renowned climate scientist whose research had influenced international agreements, a business leader whose company specialized in renewable energy technology, and Olivia's former university professor who had guided her early research into sustainable agriculture practices. The conversation that developed around their table provided insights into the complex relationships between government policy, scientific research, private investment, and public advocacy in addressing climate change. William appreciated the opportunity to engage with experts whose perspectives could inform his own understanding of environmental issues, particularly as his royal role increasingly involved supporting initiatives that addressed global challenges requiring coordinated response from multiple sectors of society. Hugh's wedding speech revealed aspects of his character that were rarely visible during formal public appearances or business meetings. His humor and self-deprecation created an atmosphere of warmth and accessibility that put guests at ease while acknowledging the unusual circumstances of his position. He spoke candidly about the challenges of inheriting enormous wealth and responsibility at a young age, crediting Olivia with helping him develop a clearer vision of how to use those resources constructively. The Duke's acknowledgement of his friendship with William brought sustained applause from guests who understood the significance of such personal relationships in shaping both individual lives and broader social dynamics. Hugh described how William's example had influenced his own approach to balancing public duty with personal authenticity, noting that their friendship had provided valuable perspective during difficult periods when the weight of inherited responsibility felt overwhelming. Olivia's response speech demonstrated the public speaking skills that would serve her well in her new role as Duchess of Westminster. She spoke eloquently about her initial nervousness at entering such rarefied social circles, but emphasized how Hugh's family and friends had welcomed her with genuine warmth rather than treating her as an outsider who needed to prove her worthiness. Her comments about environmental challenges facing future generations resonated particularly strongly with younger guests who would inherit both the benefits and consequences of current policy decisions. The entertainment for the reception reflected the couple's personalities and interests while providing appropriate sophistication for such distinguished guests. A classical quartet performed during dinner, featuring pieces that showcased both traditional compositions and contemporary works inspired by environmental themes. The musical selections created an atmosphere conducive to conversation while avoiding the intrusive volume that could inhibit meaningful dialogue among guests. William particularly enjoyed conversations with several young entrepreneurs who had developed innovative approaches to sustainable business practices. Their energy and creativity provided refreshing contrast to the sometimes cautious perspectives of established business leaders, suggesting that future economic development might incorporate environmental considerations more effectively than previous generations had managed. Such interactions reminded him of the importance of supporting young people whose ideas could shape society's response to emerging challenges. The catering for the reception demonstrated practical application of the environmental values that Hugh and Olivia espoused in their public advocacy. Local suppliers had provided organic ingredients wherever possible, with menu selections designed to minimize carbon footprint while maintaining the culinary excellence expected at such occasions. The approach required extensive planning and coordination, but created a model that other high-profile events might emulate in demonstrating commitment to sustainable practices. Photography during the reception continued under the same carefully controlled conditions that had governed documentation of the cathedral ceremony. Professional photographers captured both formal portraits and candid moments that revealed the genuine joy and celebration surrounding the newlyweds. William participated in several group photographs that would become historical records of the relationships and alliances present at this significant social event. The wedding cake presentation provided another opportunity for Hugh and Olivia to demonstrate their values while maintaining traditional ceremonial elements. The multi-tiered creation had been crafted by a local baker using organic ingredients sourced from farms that employed sustainable agricultural practices. The decoration incorporated sugar flowers that exactly replicated species native to the Westminster estates, creating beauty that celebrated the natural heritage they were committed to preserving. Security arrangements for the reception required different approaches than those employed at the cathedral, as the outdoor setting and larger guest list created additional challenges for protection officers. Williams' security team worked seamlessly with estate security and local police to maintain safety while preserving the relaxed atmosphere that Hugh and Olivia wanted for their celebration. The success of these arrangements reflected months of careful planning and coordination between multiple agencies. International guests at the reception included several members of European royal families, whose presence reflected the complex web of relationships that connected aristocratic families across national boundaries. William enjoyed catching up with cousins and family friends whose own lives involved similar challenges in adapting traditional institutions to contemporary realities. Their conversations often touched on shared experiences in balancing public duties with personal relationships and private interests. The afternoon progressed with various activities designed to accommodate different guest preferences and energy levels. Younger attendees gravitated toward more active pursuits, including tennis and croquet matches on the estate's magnificent courts and lawns. Older guests preferred quieter conversations in shaded areas where they could enjoy the garden's beauty while discussing topics of mutual interest without the physical demands of competitive activities. Hugh's younger sister organized a tour of the estate's sustainable energy installations for guests interested in learning more about practical applications of environmental technology. The Westminster family had invested significantly in solar panels, wind turbines, and energy storage systems that reduced their carbon footprint while demonstrating the feasibility of renewable energy solutions for large-scale operations. Such initiatives reflected Hugh's commitment to leading by example rather than simply advocating for changes that others should implement. The bar service featured locally produced wines and spirits, with several offerings coming from estates owned by friends and family members who had embraced sustainable production methods. The selection provided opportunities for guests to support small producers while enjoying beverages that reflected regional characteristics and traditional craftsmanship. Such attention to detail demonstrated how personal celebrations could support broader economic and environmental goals. As the afternoon evolved toward evening, the atmosphere became increasingly relaxed as formal protocols gave way to more spontaneous interactions. William found himself engaged in fascinating discussions about topics ranging from conservation biology to renewable energy policy, often with individuals whose expertise far exceeded his own, but whose respect for his position created opportunities for meaningful dialogue about complex issues affecting society's future. The success of the reception reflected months of careful planning by Hugh and Olivia's wedding team, who had managed to balance multiple competing priorities while creating an event that satisfied both personal preferences and social expectations. Their achievement in bringing together such diverse groups of people in an atmosphere of genuine celebration suggested that traditional social institutions could adapt successfully to contemporary values when guided by thoughtful leadership and clear vision. The evening portion of the celebration began as golden sunset light filtered across the Westminster estate's carefully manicured grounds, creating a magical atmosphere that seemed to transform the already impressive setting into something approaching fairy tale perfection. William observed how the changing light affected the mood of the gathering, as formal afternoon conversations gradually evolved into more relaxed evening festivities that would extend well into the night. The transition required subtle adjustments to music, lighting, and service that demonstrated the exceptional event planning that had characterized every aspect of Hugh and Olivia's wedding celebration. Dancing commenced with the traditional first dance between the newlyweds, who had chosen a piece that reflected both classical elegance and personal meaning. Their selection, a waltz that had been performed at Hugh's parents' wedding 3 decades earlier, connected their celebration to family history while acknowledging the continuity that characterized aristocratic traditions. William watched with appreciation as the couple moved with natural grace across the temporary dance floor that had been installed on the estate's main lawn, their obvious happiness creating an infectious atmosphere that drew other guests to join them. The band selected for the evening entertainment reflected Hugh and Olivia's sophisticated musical tastes while ensuring broad appeal across their diverse guest list. The ensemble could seamlessly transition between classical compositions suitable for formal dancing and contemporary pieces that would appeal to younger attendees. Their repertoire included several pieces specifically chosen to honor different cultural backgrounds represented among the international guests, creating an inclusive atmosphere that celebrated diversity while maintaining overall coherence. William participated in several traditional dances that were expected at such formal occasions, partnering with various female guests in carefully choreographed social interactions that honored both protocol and personal relationships. These moments provided opportunities for brief, private conversations with individuals he might not otherwise have extensive time to engage, including Olivia's mother, who expressed her gratitude for his presence and support of her daughter's marriage to Hugh. The evening's conversation topics inevitably turned to more substantial subjects as alcohol relaxed social inhibitions, and the successful conclusion of the formal ceremonies created space for deeper dialogue. William found himself engaged in discussions about constitutional monarchy's future role in British society, particularly as younger generations questioned traditional institutions' relevance to contemporary challenges. Such conversations required careful navigation of complex political considerations while maintaining the diplomatic neutrality essential to his constitutional position. Hugh's business associates used the reception as an opportunity to discuss major development projects that would benefit from Westminster family investment and expertise. William listened with interest to conversations about sustainable urban development initiatives that could serve as models for environmentally responsible growth in cities facing rapid population expansion. The intersection of private capital, environmental stewardship, and social responsibility represented exactly the kind of innovative thinking that future challenges would require. The estate's gardens provided perfect venues for smaller group conversations that developed throughout the evening. William appreciated the opportunity to step away from the main celebration, occasionally to engage in more intimate discussions with friends and family members. These quieter moments allowed for deeper reflection on the day's significance and its implications for relationships that extended far beyond the immediate wedding celebration. Olivia's professional colleagues from the environmental science community brought unique perspectives to conversations about climate change policy and implementation strategies. Their technical expertise complemented the political and business insights provided by other guests, creating opportunities for cross-disciplinary dialogue that rarely occurred in more homogeneous social settings. William recognized the value of such interactions for informing his own understanding of complex issues that required coordinated response from multiple sectors. The evening menu featured lighter fare designed to sustain guests through extended festivities without creating the heaviness that could inhibit dancing and socializing. Local chefs had created innovative presentations of traditional British cuisine alongside international dishes that honored the diverse backgrounds of many attendees. The culinary approach demonstrated how traditional hospitality could evolve to accommodate contemporary tastes and dietary requirements while maintaining essential character and quality. Photography during the evening celebration captured both formal portraits and candid moments that revealed the authentic joy surrounding Hugh and Olivia's marriage. Professional photographers worked discreetly to document significant interactions and memorable scenes while respecting guest privacy and the relaxed atmosphere that had developed. These images would become important historical records of relationships and alliances that might influence British society for years to come. Security arrangements for the evening portion of the celebration required constant adjustment as guests moved between different areas of the estate and social groupings evolved throughout the night. Williams' protection officers coordinated continuously with broader security teams to maintain appropriate safety levels while allowing natural social interactions to develop without interference. Their professional expertise ensured that security considerations remained invisible to most guests while providing comprehensive protection for all attendees. The evening's entertainment included several surprise performances by musicians and entertainers who had personal connections to Hugh and Olivia rather than simply professional relationships. These unexpected additions to the program created moments of genuine delight and spontaneity that elevated the celebration beyond typical formal events. The approach reflected the couple's desire to share their joy with people who had contributed meaningfully to their individual journeys and their relationship. International guests particularly appreciated the evening's relaxed atmosphere, which allowed for extended conversations about topics of mutual interest without the time constraints that often limited interactions at formal state functions. William enjoyed discussing constitutional monarchies' different manifestations across European nations with royal cousins whose own countries had evolved different approaches to balancing traditional institutions with democratic governance. The bar service expanded during the evening to include specialty cocktails created specifically for the occasion, with names and ingredients that reflected both Hugh and Olivia's personalities and their shared interests. These unique offerings provided conversation starters while demonstrating the attention to detail that had characterized every aspect of their wedding planning. Local bartenders had worked with the couple to develop recipes that incorporated regional spirits and locally sourced mixers. As the evening progressed towards later stages, the atmosphere became increasingly intimate as larger groups broke down into smaller clusters of friends and family members sharing more personal conversations. William appreciated these quieter moments, which allowed for deeper connections with individuals whose perspectives could inform his own understanding of contemporary challenges and opportunities facing British society. The estate's magnificent architecture provided dramatic backdrops for evening festivities, as strategic lighting highlighted the building's historic features while creating warm, inviting spaces for continued celebration. The visual impact reinforced connections between past and present that characterized the entire wedding celebration, honoring traditional heritage while embracing contemporary values and aspirations. Hugh's decision to extend personal invitations to several young environmental activists reflected his and Olivia's commitment to supporting emerging voices in climate advocacy. These guests brought energy and idealism that balanced the more measured perspectives of established political and business leaders, creating dynamic conversations about innovative approaches to environmental challenges that required urgent attention from current decision-makers. The evening's success demonstrated how traditional social institutions could adapt to serve contemporary purposes while preserving their essential character and meaning. Hugh and Olivia's wedding celebration had achieved the difficult balance of honoring aristocratic traditions while embracing progressive values, creating a model that other families might follow in navigating similar challenges between heritage and evolution. The final hours of the celebration unfolded with a gentle melancholy that characterizes all meaningful conclusions, as guests gradually began their departures while the newlyweds savored these last moments of their extraordinary wedding day. William prepared for his own departure with mixed emotions, appreciating the privilege of witnessing such a significant personal milestone for friends he genuinely cared about, while recognizing that his continued presence might inhibit the more intimate conversations that naturally developed as formal festivities wound down. The farewell conversations between William and various guests provided opportunities for final exchanges about topics that had emerged throughout the day's festivities. Several business leaders expressed interest in developing partnerships with royal charitable initiatives, particularly those focused on environmental conservation and sustainable development. These discussions planted seeds for future collaborations that could leverage private sector innovation and resources to advance causes that align with royal family priorities and public interest. Hugh and Olivia's final moments with their departing guests revealed the genuine warmth and gratitude that had characterized their approach to the entire celebration. Their personal attention to each farewell demonstrated the social skills that would serve them well as they assumed greater responsibilities for representing the Westminster family's interests and values. William noted how naturally they had adapted to the complex requirements of hosting such a high-profile gathering while maintaining authentic personal connections with diverse individuals. The cleanup and restoration process that would begin immediately after the last guest departed represented a massive logistical undertaking that had been planned with the same meticulous attention to detail that characterized every other aspect of the celebration. Estate staff would work through the night to restore the gardens and buildings to their normal condition while preserving appropriate mementos and documentation of the historic occasion for family archives and future reference. William's departure from Eaton Hall required careful coordination with his security detail to ensure both his own safety and minimal disruption to the concluding festivities. The timing had been planned to allow him to fulfill his social obligations while avoiding any suggestion that royal presence was essential for the celebration's success. His final conversations with Hugh and Olivia conveyed personal affection and institutional support for their marriage and future endeavors. The journey back to his own residence provided William with quiet time to reflect on the day's significance and its implications for relationships that extended far beyond the immediate wedding celebration. Hugh's marriage to Olivia represented more than just personal happiness. It symbolized the potential for traditional institutions to evolve in ways that serve contemporary values while preserving essential character and meaning. Such evolution would be crucial for maintaining public support for aristocratic families and constitutional monarchy in an era of increasing democratic expectation and social change. The media coverage of the wedding that would appear in various publications over the following days had been carefully managed to balance public interest with family privacy. Official photographers had provided selected images for authorized publication, while other documentation would remain within family archives. The approach reflected lessons learned from previous high-profile celebrations about managing public attention while preserving the sacred nature of personal milestones and family celebrations. William's presence at the wedding would be interpreted by political observers and social commentators as institutional approval for Hugh's choice of bride and confidence in the couple's ability to fulfill their inherited responsibilities effectively. Such interpretations carried weight in aristocratic circles where royal approval continued to influence social standing and business relationships, despite official government policies promoting democratic equality and merit-based advancement. The environmental themes that had characterized many aspects of the celebration reflected broader changes in British society's approach to climate change and sustainability. Hugh and Olivia's commitment to incorporating these values into their personal celebration suggested that environmental considerations were becoming integral to social planning rather than simply fashionable additions to traditional practices. Their example might influence other families to adopt similar approaches in their own gatherings and business operations. The success of bringing together such diverse groups of people for meaningful celebration demonstrated the potential for bridging social divisions that often seemed insurmountable in contemporary political discourse. The wedding had created natural opportunities for dialogue between individuals from different backgrounds, professions, and ideological perspectives who discovered common ground through shared appreciation for Hugh and Olivia's relationship and values. Future historians examining this period of British social history would likely identify Hugh and Olivia's wedding as representing significant transitions in aristocratic culture and values. Their marriage symbolized the adaptation of traditional institutions to contemporary challenges while maintaining essential continuity with historical heritage. The celebration had demonstrated how personal choices by prominent individuals could influence broader social trends and expectations. The charitable implications of Hugh's marriage to someone with Olivia's environmental background suggested potential shifts in Westminster family philanthropic priorities that could influence environmental policy and conservation efforts across multiple sectors. Their combined resources and influence might catalyze innovative approaches to climate change mitigation and sustainable development that individual efforts could not achieve alone. The personal friendship between William and Hugh that had been celebrated throughout the day reflected the importance of maintaining authentic relationships despite the artificial constraints and expectations that surrounded their public roles. Such friendships provided essential emotional support and practical counsel that helped both individuals navigate the unique challenges of inherited responsibility and public scrutiny. The technical excellence demonstrated in every aspect of the wedding celebration, from security arrangements to catering logistics to entertainment coordination, created a standard that other high-profile events might aspire to emulate. The success required months of careful planning and coordination between multiple professional teams, each contributing specialized expertise while maintaining focus on overall objectives and values. As William settled into his vehicle for the journey home, he carried with him renewed appreciation for the complex relationships and responsibilities that defined aristocratic life in contemporary Britain. Hugh and Olivia's wedding had demonstrated how traditional institutions could evolve to serve modern purposes while preserving their essential character and social significance. Their success in balancing personal happiness with public responsibility provided a model that might guide other young people inheriting similar privileges and obligations. The lasting impact of the celebration would extend far beyond the immediate joy and satisfaction of the wedding day itself. The relationships formed, strengthened, and celebrated during these festivities would influence British society through business partnerships, charitable initiatives, policy discussions, and cultural evolution that connected aristocratic heritage with contemporary challenges and opportunities. The memory of this extraordinary day would remain with William as a reminder of friendship's enduring value and the potential for traditional institutions to adapt successfully to changing times while maintaining their essential purpose and meaning. Hugh and Olivia's marriage represented hope that future generations could inherit the benefits of British aristocratic tradition while transforming its practice to serve broader social good and environmental stewardship that contemporary challenges demanded.